Pokemon Lore Episode 8, The Morality of Trainers. A common joke amongst the fans of the Pokemon franchise is the fact that trainers are basically partaking in cockfights. You know, make your pets fight and the winner gets cash, beat up little girls in the forest, take their money and get their phone number. Alright. But this really does bring up an important question. In fact, this very question was explored heavily in Generation 5 of the Pokemon franchise. And that question is it morally right for trainers to battle with Pokemon? This is a theme that was explored in Black and White. In the games, a boy named N with an ability to talk to Pokemon is introduced. When he was young, he was orphaned in the woods and raised by Pokemon until one day a man named Gaisis came claiming to be his father. Gaisis then raised him to become the king of Team Plasma, manipulating his heart and ideology, giving him minimal human contact, and surrounding him with only Pokemon that had been harmed by human beings. Eventually in the games, you meet N and learn that he wants to create a world where Pokemon are free from the tyranny of human beings. And this is a story that really goes back to when Pokemon first began. Even at the beginning of the franchise and the story, we learned a very few important things. The world is full of strange beings called Pokemon, and human trainers catch these Pokemon and compete with one another in Pokemon battles. It's supposed to be the beginning of your very own adventure, and it doesn't begin until you try to walk in tall grass. In this moment, you find out it's too dangerous to go out because of the wild Pokemon that live out in the natural world. In fact, the only way to travel is with your very own Pokemon. Luckily, Professor Oaks gives you a Pokemon, at the same time introducing you to your rival, who douchily picks a Pokemon that's super effective against yours, and then you're on your way. And that's when the story begins. It is interesting to note that the world of Pokemon is never painted as black and white. Pokemon might be dangerous, but they can also protect. Some people choose to raise Pokemon with friendship, while others don't see their Pokemon as friends at all. Different ways of raising Pokemon are introduced and even mentioned throughout the franchise, with the biggest polarity being the villains of the world. By the time Team Rocket is introduced, you realize that the world isn't perfect, and that there are people out there who see Pokemon merely as tools. You even meet a guy who could cut off some poor Slowpoke's tail and is attempting to sell it to you for a ridiculous amount of money because they are supposed to be so damn tasty. And it's not just that. Pokemon die. You eventually reach Lavender Town and realize that the concept of death does exist in this world. With all that in mind, it begs the question, is it really right for Pokemon trainers to battle with Pokemon? To answer that question, we should look at the facts. First of all, we know that to become stronger, gain experience, learn new moves, and evolve, Pokemon need to battle. In fact, it appears to be a natural instinct much in the same ways that humans grow older. In order to fully mature, a Pokemon must and will battle, grow, and evolve. We also know that when Pokemon are senselessly pushed to fight each other to the brink, it is on the same level of senseless cruelty that can very well end in death. Something we caught a glimpse of in Pokemon the first movie. And while there are some who would only seek to use and abuse Pokemon, we know that plenty of people see Pokemon as companions and friends. So what does this all say? The Pokemon trainer relationship was slightly touched upon in Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. Lucario would loyally refer to Sir Aaron as master. Sir Aaron, however, felt strongly that the relationship wasn't one of master and servant, but rather that of friends and equal companions. And speaking of equality, Cinefolk Story 3 comes to mind. There was once a time that people and Pokemon were considered once and the same, and by the literal translation even married each other. But even in the most watered down and PG interpretation of the story, it can be assumed that there was a time where there was no trainers and that Pokemon and humans were equal. And with all this in mind, I think we can figure it out. The existence of trainers isn't inherently wrong, and it isn't inherently right, and it's not a matter that's black and white. So is it right for trainers to battle with Pokemon? The answer is, it depends. Are the trainers friends with their Pokemon? Do they merely see them as tools? Do they not care about their Pokemon getting hurt and make sure not to push their Pokemon too far? Do they love and care about their Pokemon? And do they see their Pokemon as equals? I, for one, believe that the modern Pokemon world is a step down from certain ideals in the past. I think that Pokemon should be considered equals and have all the same rights as human beings, as Pokemon themselves are highly sentient and even at times have intellects that greatly surpass the natural capacity of humans. As for battling, as a competitive sport where the Pokemon is encouraged and supported by the trainer, I don't believe there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I think it's healthy. Since battling is for sport, unlike in nature, it's not a matter of survival or killing. It's a way for Pokemon to become stronger through their own merit and support of their trainer. It can also be bad at times with criminal organizations and assholes in general who would abuse and misuse their Pokemon. So, much like the world we live in, sometimes, it's just a matter of the choices you make. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Be sure to like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. More to come, and of course, feel free to leave any requests. This is Reaper, signing out.